I come in here, it looks professional. Tune into the content.
Welcome back, everybody, to a special episode of Direct Discussions, a podcast dedicated to deep diving individuals just like you. Today, we have a very special guest in the building. Latina entrepreneur based out of Irving, Texas, owner of Texas Taxes and Insurance. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Andrea De La Rosa.
Let's go. Welcome here, everybody. This is her first podcast.
Yes.
So cut her a little bit of slack.
Just a little bit.
We got a lot of stuff to get into. We're going to touch on, where she started, how she got her start, her role as an entrepreneur inside of her organization. We're going to touch on family, how, just raising kids in general, being an entrepreneur and raising kids is not easy. So we're going to go ahead and touch on that. Touch on some business tips, stick around for those. We're going to save those towards the end so you guys can watch. Mm-hmm. So she knows a lot about taxes. Obviously, she has to, right? Because if not, she's in the wrong industry, whatever. But needless to say, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate you for, taking time out of your day and coming out here.
Thank you.
So let's get right into it, guys. So first question.
Yes.
Why taxes and insurance?
Why, like the name?
No. Why did you decide to just dive into that specific, career goal?
To be honest, I've always liked math. And then I found an interest in accounting. And when I found out that my mom knew how to do taxes, I thought this is kind of perfect. This is what I've always wanted to do. Not necessarily taxes in general, but just in the same kind of industry. And so, one thing kind of led to another. I was working full time at T-Mobile when it started, and she went ahead and was like, you know what, you're pregnant, you're about to have a baby. Why don't we do this? Because you're never going to have time with your kid if you're always working. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, let's go ahead and do it. And I've always been kind of go with the flow. So that's what we did.
So as far as that, we touched on it earlier. You said you got your start with your mom and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But so around what year did that happen where you were like, okay, I need to go ahead and, stop working a 9 to 5 and, focus on taxes?
Yeah. What age as well?
So when we actually first started doing taxes, it was very seasonal. So I was still full time with T-Mobile. It was in 2012. Mm-hmm. And I was 19. And then in 2014, when I had my daughter, I went on maternity leave, and I didn't want to, be away from her. So I went ahead and I resigned from my job. And so at that point, I was already 20 years old, almost going to be 21. And when I tried to go back to T-Mobile, because she was a little bit older, the doors just didn't open up for me like I thought they would. So that's when I went full time into what we do, which is taxes. And because it's such a seasonal industry, I wanted to add something to our services that would allow us to be open all year. So what we did is we started adding insurance, and that's where insurance came in. But at the beginning, it was really only taxes.
So with that being said, you said, okay, let's go ahead and make that transition from seasonal to full-time. Mm-hmm. So what kind of steps did you take as to adding insurance on there? Did you have to take certain classes, or
yes.
How does that work out?
Yeah, so I had to actually get my insurance license. It's called a P&L. And I took some courses. I tried online. It's not really for me. So I went in person. I knocked it out in 3 days. I did my fingerprinting, I did my testing, and then I got my license. And that's why we started selling insurance.
That's crazy, though, 3 days. Because when we talked to Evelyn, a couple of, she was like, yeah, no, it took me 4 years to get a bachelor's and 5 days to get an insurance license. I'm like, yes. Are they really just handing them out?
So
no,
quick.
It's a much easier process. You have to realize that whenever you're getting like a license, it's focused just on one thing. And when you go to college, they're teaching you the basics of kind of everything, right? Mm. The laws of everything and why you should be in school for longer. Kind of like we were talking about, like our kids, they're in school all day and there's really no need for it, right? Same thing when you go to college. Not that it's not necessary. I just don't think that the time that you're there is actually necessary. So I think if you focus more like on certificates or licenses, you're gonna hit it in a much less time.
Yeah, low key with college, I feel like it's like you said, it's all money theoretically. The longer we can keep them here, the more we can keep charging them to just be at campus, whatever it is, room and board. It's just more and more money. So it's like you said. Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask real quick, what does P&L mean? What does it stand for?
It's for property and casualty. So anything that is physical. So like all of the houses, cars, that's what we insure. Auto, home, commercial. So anything that's physical.
Okay.
Yeah. And I did end up getting my life license as well. So that one, it was a P&L, life license, and realtor.
All at once or in different times?
No, different times.
Okay, so you also do bookkeeping?
Yes.
So how does when did you bring that along with everything as well?
So bookkeeping, I actually started doing it just for my business, and like I said, because I like accounting, it was kind of easy for me. I like to do that. I learned it in high school. I did a little bit when I was going to college. So whenever I was doing it for my business, it just kind of came naturally. Then I had, because we do taxes for a lot of like contractors. You're talking about handymen, maintenance men, you're talking about plumbers. A lot of these people don't know how to do bookkeeping. So they just kind of started coming to me and they were like, hey, can you handle my books? And honestly, it was easier than going through the receipts at the end of the year. So that's how we started adding bookkeeping services. So maybe like 4 or 5 years now.
So how does bookkeeping work theoretically?
So bookkeeping is just keeping track of all of your income, all of your expenses. It can be that basic or all the way up to invoicing, payroll. So just depending on your type of business and what you're doing, it's going to vary.
Okay.
So, and then, let's say, you're doing bookkeeping or whatnot, but as far as the bookkeeping goes, are you using any softwares? And if so, what kind of softwares are you using?
Yeah, so at the beginning, I was just using Excel. So I was indexing everything myself. And then I ended up using QuickBooks. And because it's a small business, honestly, it's pretty easy to use. I liked the miles tracking. I liked that it was the categories are pretty simple. You can customize them yourself. And so for what I do, that's what I use.
You said QuickBooks?
Yes.
And it's like an app you can have on your phone?
You can have it on your phone, your tablet, your the only one that I don't recommend getting is like the actual desktop version. You get online and you can use it on your desktop without having to have it only on your desktop.
And do they charge like per month or anything like that?
Yes, so it's a monthly subscription. I have an accounting firm, so I do my subscriptions through there, and depending on my clients, I'll go ahead and bill them through that.
Oh, okay.
Yes, so it's a little bit different.
Okay, yeah, I got you. That's actually smart.
Yeah. So another question I got for you is, so let's talk about the importance of all the stuff that you offer to your community.
Yes.
Do you come from a place where you're coming from like, you're providing knowledge and value to these people, or is it more of a, hey, I just got a business. If you guys want to come, and come this way?
No, we love to educate our community. Most of our clients are people who own businesses and they don't even realize it. Right. So it's a lot of people who receive 1099s, a lot of I-10 people. So people who don't have a social, they get paid kind of through, instead of a W-2, they'll get a 1099 at the end of the year. And that automatically places them in a category of having their own business. Most of our clients are Spanish speaking. So we love to educate our community because I feel like my job is, first of all, easier if you know what you're doing throughout the year. Right. And then on top of that, I'm able to help you save money if you know what it is that you're in, right? You're not just another W-2 employee. You do have write-offs. You do have expenses. We do need to keep track of it. There's a correct way to do it. And that's why I like to teach our community, hey, you know what? Let's be better business owners so that we can save money and so we can set up our families for a better future.
I think the number one thing that most people don't realize is that, you have to be that kind of person too, to look out for your community because,
Yes.
It's, second generation Hispanic American here?
Correct.
All right. See, that's also another thing because yes, our parents and let's say our grandparents came over here, to start a new life. And, now it's our job as a second generation and third generation potentially to take care of our community because,
sure.
At the end of the day, they make that sacrifice to come over here. So now in order to pay homage to their sacrifice to come over here, we're taking advantage of all the stuff that we got going on here in the States in order to help those people within our current timeline where it's like, okay, now we see the next wave of first, second generation Americans coming up. Because think about it, are theoretically speaking, our parents had came over here. Now we're second generation, but there's still people coming over here starting their life just like our parents and grandparents did. So I think that's very key right there, though, you know, contribute to our community and just say, look, we have this knowledge. We're going to help you get to a position where you don't have to be where our parents were at back in the day. Exactly. I think that's very important right there to be, you know.
Yeah, I think that's super important because I feel like a lot of parents that are first and second generations, they're just misinformed right now. But with technology and the internet, they're able to get informed and helping out that next generation, saying, hey, let's start setting up insurance. Let's set up a mutual fund. Let's set up this so that you can, you know, take the next steps to not like live what we lived, to have to move here and do whatever it is. Like they're already a step ahead of everybody else around them. But that all goes back to just, you know, when they come over here, we're just trying to build on top of the next one. We can't just keep saying, oh, we're going to just, you know, my parents lived fine, I'm gonna just do the same thing. No, we need to keep trying to build and push ourselves to want more for ourselves.
Definitely. That was the whole point of them coming here to begin with. You know, that was the reason why they came. I don't think they realized the extent or how big that dream really was until now that they're seeing it. You know, that second, third generation coming through. Like my daughters, you know, they're not going to go through what I went through. Now they're going to push for something bigger.
Yeah.
What are some things that since you're in the insurance space and everything like that, would you want your daughters to go into that, or are there some other avenues you would want them to maybe you know, go into? So
my mom pushed a lot on dreams. So my mom was always like, you know, Mija, you can be whatever you want to be, right? When you grow up, you do that. So I don't ever want to influence them that, because that just kind of goes against what I believe, right? But I do think that as protection, yes, there's certain things that I would like for them to already have in place so that they continue to live off their dreams, right?
What would that be?
So I would want them to get their licenses in what I do. Okay. Because in insurance, you actually have opportunity, especially with life insurance, you have opportunity to be living off of residual income, right? And so for them to be able to tap into that money, they do have to have a license. So I can't pass anything onto them if they don't have that. So yes, I would like for them to get their licenses. I would like them to be educated in real estate, because I do see a lot of opportunity there. So those are things that I do plan on teaching them and implementing with them, but I also want them to follow their dreams and do what they want.
So what inspired you to get into real estate? Because you have all these different avenues, but you're like a serial entrepreneur theoretically.
Yes. So me and my mom, like I said, she's a dreamer. So she definitely, you know, pushed for all of us to be more like an entrepreneurial spirit. And if you were to meet my family, you'd probably be like, yeah, y'all all kind of got something there. But real estate, I don't know, it just interests me because even just looking at the buildings, you're like, man, I wonder who owns that, right? I wonder how much money it took to build that up and like how long that project took. So it really just interests me from the beginning. When we started buying our first house, I don't know. I just kind of knew it wasn't going to be our only house. So I was like, you know what? Let me go ahead. I took a class for real estate investing. And honestly, we paid $20,000 on that class. We were part of like a real estate group. But I met a lot of people and made a lot of connections. And honestly, it's who you know. So at that point, we didn't do our first transaction within that year. It actually took us 2 years to do our first transaction, and we partnered up with somebody, and it was a wholesale deal. And that wholesale deal turned into $40,000. So yes, we spent $20,000 on a class, but a year later we made $40,000.
So on the wholesale deal, that's how did you make the profit of the $40,000 off the wholesale deal? Was it just like one property or it was multiple?
No, that was just one property. Okay. And I will say you don't find this all the time. So it definitely depends on the numbers on the deal. You have to make, you have to take risks, but you want to make smart risks, right? So this property actually came, she was a friend of my mother's, and she was trying to sell it. The house kept flooding. Great neighborhood. It was in Irving. She just wanted to get rid of it. She had some debt. She was trying to go through it. We offered her $80,000. It was actually more than what she thought she was going to get. So I felt like, we're helping her out. She made money off of it. We paid her. We didn't actually even pay her. We put it under contract for $80,000. And then we turned around, and before we went to closing, we already had another buyer for $160,000. So if you notice, that's an $80,000 spread. Yeah. But I had a partner who was teaching me everything at the time, and he said, I get half. So I
That's
paid my
completely
dues with
fine.
it. I was okay with it. I was like, you know what? I made $40,000 that I didn't have yesterday. So let's go.
You didn't even have to do any work theoretically, as in labor wise.
No.
You just mentally had to, deal with the kind of things. And
Exactly.
that $40K for how long was that process to get that through?
It was less than a month.
Less than a month.
Yeah,
and
we had it closed in, I think, like 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah.
So, okay, a couple questions on that. Okay, you go out, you get the contract, and then you sell the contract with somebody else?
Correct.
So what happens if, you don't find a buyer and now you're stuck in that contract?
I mean, if it's a good enough deal, I'll buy it.
That's a good deal. I think even a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom for $80K, that's a steal. That's a steal. As long as it's not even a 1-bedroom is not bad.
No, it's not bad. Like I said, and it was in an area where it was worth much more. Even after selling it for $160, you have to remember, I sold it to another investor. Mm-hmm. He made money off of that as well. Mm-hmm. So he went and he sold it, I want to say for like $240 after everything, but he had to put money in it. Mm-hmm. He put in all the work. He made sure it wasn't flooding no more. He was doing all the stuff. So I made probably the same amount he did without having to do anything.
Without having to do anything.
So aside joining a real estate group like that, what are the requirements did it take for you to be able to start wholesaling?
Nothing. So you just have to know what you're doing. So we placed it in a contract. So when you go into contracts with real estate, you don't have to be a realtor. And I was not a realtor at the time. And I wasn't thinking about being a realtor. Actually, the guy who was mentoring me at the time, he was already a broker. Mm. And so he was like, hey, you know what? You should get your license now. And it still took me a year after that because I just wasn't interested. I saw that we could make money without having it. But I like helping people. And so that's why I got my real estate license, so that I can be able to help people buy and sell their homes and do the same thing.
So out of those multiple businesses that you run, what brings you the most pleasure out of all 3, 4, 7 of them that you have?
To be honest, I think they all bring me joy. They all do. But I think whenever I really feel like we've helped someone, and that's when I really get excited, So like when I help somebody get into their first house, or when we're doing somebody's taxes and they're like, man, you saved me a lot of money. Like that really, really excites me. I get super happy for them more than the benefit of what we got out of it. So
I think even for me, just for the way I feel, even you helping out the investor guy that was helping you and he made 40, you made 40. I would feel happy that he made 40. I feel happy. Like that would make me happy. I'm glad I made money and you made money, because it goes back to what you said. If we're bringing value to each other, then it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And if I'm bringing value to you and you're helping bring value to me, then it all works how it's supposed to work, and it all corresponds like it needs to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
One of the things that, we're talking about is about who you know and what you know. Another thing goes to, just working and, who's watching, 'cause somebody's always watching you, So with that being said, did anybody, let's say with, for lack of a better word, anybody with clout come up to you and say, hey, I want to work with you?
You mean like
just somebody like, maybe with a lot of influence, or a lot of more connections than you'd realize. Yes. They notice your work and they're like, I need to work with her.
Yes. Actually, I met Irma Vargas. She's a Dallas beauty nurse, and she's awesome. To be honest, she is total leader. She's badass boss. She's super cool to work with. I actually went to go get lip filler with her, and I was just going as a client, and I really loved her work. So I was like, I gotta go with her. Honestly, I didn't even know her name at the time. And so I got my lips done, and she makes you feel so comfortable. Right. So I was like, she was like, what do you do? And I was telling her, I started bookkeeping and I do taxes and interest. Like, how long have you been doing it? And the questions that she was asking me, I was able to answer. And I didn't realize that she felt comfortable with asking me these questions. So she was like, maybe I'll come see you. And a lot of people say that. Yeah. Everybody's like, I'll come see you later. Yeah. But you know what? She said it and she meant it. She texted me later. She was like, hey, I can come in on Monday. And I was like, oh my goodness, okay. I got, and honestly, like I said, I didn't even know like her following or anything like that, because I wasn't too much into, honestly, I don't even think I'm still into social media that way. So whenever she came to my office and I was able to help her and we got started, I was very upfront. You know what? I don't know this. I do know this. I can help you with that. I think that, and honestly, a lot of clients, when they come in, they have 1,000,001 problems, right? And I'm like, okay, let's start tackling them down. Even if it's filling out an application, we will help you in our office. So she was like, oh, I need help with, getting this loan pulled through, and I need help with this and this. And I was like, you know what? I'll figure it out. And we did. That's what we did. And when she started recommending people, or when she started posting on her social media, I realized how big of an influence that made. And so, like I said, before that, I wasn't even interested into social media. I just kind of used it like once in a while to check in with family and things like that. But then I realized the impact that it had because of her following. So yes, her being one of my clients, and probably one of my biggest clients, that definitely made a difference for us.
Now that we're talking about social media, this is a great gateway into marketing. How is your marketing done on social media? And do you put a lot of influence on that? Or where do you get your clients from, aside from word of mouth?
So 90% of our clients are word of mouth. I want to say lately it's going to be, I hired a marketing manager, and she's doing great. So we're getting a lot more views this way. We're getting more followers, but it takes time to convert those people into actual clients, right? I feel like because of Irma, like the Daddy's Beauty Nurse, Bella Metzball, when she referred us, and it was also a big social media following, it just kind of brought it in together. And so that other 10% that comes from social media is mainly from her. So that I do owe her that credit on that part. But yes, we did start getting a marketing manager, and she handles all of that. And to be honest, because I'm not good on social media, I don't know how to edit. I don't know how to do any of that. It's not my thing. I'm more like numbers, and we're good. But as far as like where our clients come from, I go out. I used to go out like once a week to apartment complexes, and that's where I get most of our insurance customers. So we have a super cheap renter's insurance, which starts at $7.50. So it's kind of like getting them into the door. And then once they're there, you're like, oh, well, do you need car insurance? And who does your taxes? And who does this? And so all of our clients, they kind of convert into a one-stop shop at our office. So they're like, you know what, I came in for renters, but I'm going to go ahead and get everything. And just so you know that once you're done with your lease, I can help you get into a house. So that's how we kind of cross sell to our customers.
See, I like that because, I remember when I was renting for like 2 years, they were just like, okay, look, we don't know where you're going to get renter's insurance from, but we got this excellent policy that we partner with. And I was paying like $30 a month for renter's insurance.
That's expensive.
Yeah, see, I didn't know that, but at the same time too, I was only paying like $680 for a 1-bedroom. So I was like, okay, $30 ain't bad. But the fact that you're just able to like, because who really thinks about that? Just going to apartments and be like, look, I can get you some renter insurance real cheap. I didn't even know renter's insurance was a thing. Because growing up, we never talked about that. I was like, oh, here, the rent is $680. Okay, boom, go. Pay the bill. Whatever, right? But, thinking about renter's insurance, it's like, man, for $7 a month, less than a cup of coffee.
From Starbucks.
For the whole month. For the whole month.
You
can, that $7 right there, most people are going to say, nah, I'm good. But the fact that you're able to just plant that seed in those apartment complexes to create more homeowners in maybe 2 to 3 years is incredible, to say the least.
Yeah, that's honestly, it's almost like, it is like you have a one-stop shop for everything when it comes to that space. It's like, You need insurance, we got it. You need a house, we got it. You need your taxes done, we got it. You need your bookkeeping, we got it. Basically anything that has to do with the business and then or your personal living, you can like help them with theoretically. So wait, whenever it comes to renter's insurance, how would you pay out, or how does that work if something happens to an apartment or whatever the case is? How does that work theoretically on that end?
So, and a lot of people get confused with this because they think that being the agent, that we actually hold the money or we hold the check. So basically, I'm just the middleman. I literally just connect you with the company that's actually covering you. That company is the one that we reach out to whenever there's any claims. I cannot actually make the claim, but I can help you. You can sit in my office, we can dial the number together and we can do that. But you do have to make the claim to them, and they're the ones who pay out to you if any loss occurs.
Oh, okay. So it's just like connecting them to it. You have the resources.
Exactly.
Got you. So how long did it take? Because you said you started getting into taxes when you were 20 or 21, whenever you had your daughter.
I was 19.
19. So from that point at 19, how many years went by or how many months went by before you started the next business? And then how many more years or 2 months went by before you started the next one?
Okay, so in 2012 is when we started that, and we actually started mobile, like I was telling you. And then it took 19, so 12, 34, it took 2 years before we opened up a permanent location. And then from there, I started real estate investing. So that was the second business. And I did that in 2016.
Okay.
So, and then from there, I ended up getting my life insurance license, which I think was either 16 or 17 as well. And 2016 or 17. And then I got my real estate license, I believe, in 2019. And then in 2022, we opened up the salon. In 2022, we also opened up an
Lash?
No, that was the salon. So that we did it's called North Texas Installers. They do conveyor belt installation. So we send out guys to go and install conveyor belts in like Tyson, Amazon's warehouses. And then from there, my husband, he also had started his in 2015 for DLR installation, and I just kind of help him with that. And then we have our B&Bs and our rental units that we started a few years back.
Goodness, like literally serial entrepreneur for sure. That's a lot of businesses all within a 10-year span for sure. And doing it so young now. I mean, you're talking about 19 and then just having that motivation. Oh, we're at another one. Let's add another one. Let's add another one. Throughout that whole process, what has been the 3 things that you've had to overcome to just get to this point where you are?
Balance. I have a family. I have actually a young family. I have a 10-year-old daughter. I have a 4-year-old daughter. And knowing when to literally shut off your brain, because even if you turn off your phone, even if you turn off the computers, even if you turn off the lights, right, your brain is still going. You know, there's times when I don't even sleep because I'm just thinking about work.
Yeah, you'll lay in bed and just think about it.
And because me and my husband work together, when we talk, it's all about business.
Yeah.
You know, so we'll literally be in the car with family and that's what we're talking about. And I can sense when people are like, oh, I'm sick of this already, this conversation. So knowing when to switch off, I think is the biggest thing now. And it's still something that we work on. It's still something that we do, you know, like we have to prioritize, okay, what's more important. And I feel like right now we're making a transition where we're trying to make our family a priority and make sure that even like, you know, siblings, brothers, sisters, our moms, cousins. I hadn't seen my family over in Nebraska in a long time. I hadn't gone in a long time until recently. And I realized how much I missed just because the past 10 years we have been nonstop working. So even when, you know, because me and my mom work together too, all of our conversations are about business and work. And so when I spend quality time with her, I'm like, man, I miss this.
Yeah.
So do you feel like, with that being said, you know, do you feel like maybe there's a point in your career where you're just like, you want to step away? Or maybe just have somebody take over and you kind of just, you know, manage it from behind the scenes?
To be honest, I don't want to step away. I love what we do. I think my husband does too. Even my daughters know about it. They sound like little commercials. It's funny. But I do want to have more freedom in the fact that if I say, you know what, I'm shutting off at this time, that it's really shut off at that time. So right now, that's where kind of like our transition is. That's why I was like, the next year, I want to work really hard to make sure that when she is out of 5th grade, if I am ready to homeschool her, I can actually dedicate my time to doing that.
Okay, so that actually makes sense. So you're trying to, like you said, balance. And so what you mean by balance is like, okay, let's just try to get all the work and the kids done school-wise within this, like, let's just call it a 4-hour window. So whenever, let's just call it 1 p.m. hits, the rest of the day is like free. We can go to the mall, we can go to the movies, we can go to the park, we can go do everything we want to do as a family together, because when 1 o'clock hits, it's like work is done.
I'm done.
Our mind needs to be off work. Don't worry about that property that didn't sell yet. We need to focus on this right here in the moment, that we can worry about that tomorrow morning.
Exactly.
I like that. So you think that's like the biggest part of what you need to handle now is the balance?
Exactly. Okay. So hiring on the right people, delegating certain tasks to them, making sure training is done correctly so that when I do shut off, I don't have anything to worry about.
You have somebody just filling in your role for X amount of hours.
Exactly.
And I think that's the most important thing, because a lot of entrepreneurs, you know, they don't have that person, or they're not building that next person up to take their spot eventually. And I'm not saying that, you know, this person's going to inherit everything that you have, but, you know, everybody has to have a protege growing up, you know. You I mean, think about it this way. You know, you got all this stuff, all this knowledge, you know, from years and years of entrepreneurship. Most people are always like, oh, I'll just pass it on to my kids. But I mean, like, let's be honest, you know, I'm not saying your kids, for example, but how many kids really want to follow in their parents' footsteps?
Exactly. You
know, it's different when they're young and they're like, oh, I want to be just like mommy or daddy. But, you know, it's like,
that only lasts for a year.
But then after, you know, like they grow up, they grow other interests, and now it's like, oh, I don't want to do what they're doing, you know, and it's like, you know, so have you ever thought about, you know, just finding that next person to keep on your hip to grow?
Yes. There's two people that I actually have in mind. One of them works very closely with me all the time. I recently, it's kind of funny because I recently got disappointed with one, and not because she failed or anything, because I had just like more expectations. Right? And they don't want to. And they're ready to move on. And I thought, you know, what a perfect person, right? Because they get me even before I say something. They already know what comes next. And so, like I said, it just made me a little bit sad, because that kind of like put me back. But then I had to think about it. I had to really step back and think like, okay, are you sad for this person, or are you sad because you feel like your freedom is going, right? So, you know, that selfish tendency kind of came out, and I was like, no, you know what? This person, they want something else. They don't want this, you know, what you're doing. And that's perfectly fine. And it's better to know now than later on when you do have all these responsibilities on them. And then they're like, you know what? I don't want to do it.
Yeah, that would be the worst if you were like, hey, today's the day you're finally going to get promoted, and they're like, wow, really? This isn't for me. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to become the manager. And you're just like, dang, I really had all these high expectations for you, almost as if it's your own kid.
Yeah.
And they're like, I wanted you to do this so bad. And they're like, no, I don't want that. And it's just like, oh, you know what? I gotta take it back. Yeah. You're right though. Being able to take that at the beginning instead of, you know, getting 3 years deep and then saying, hey, you're ready for it. And they're like, no, I don't want it. That would suck even worse. Yeah. So I think catching it right out the beginning is like the best part of it, because then you can really say, okay, let me find somebody else that fits what I want.
So when you were going through that process, did you ever, you know, take some time to do some self-reflecting and be like, where did I go wrong?
Oh yeah, definitely. I definitely, and that's what I'm saying. Like maybe that was like more the selfish side of me, where I was like, man, you know, I was only thinking about myself. Like, what did I do wrong? I'm not going to get this time anymore. And so, yes, I think maybe I threw too much. Maybe I threw too much on that person, or maybe I should have communicated better on my intentions with that person of growing that way and seeing what they actually wanted from the beginning. Right. Now we actually have a different plan, and we are planning on expanding, probably even in another state. So, you know, wherever God wants to take us, that's where we're going.
When you say expanding to another state, does that mean you're going to like potentially move as well, or?
Probably just open up another location.
Okay.
Yes, I love Texas. I'm born and raised in Texas. I don't plan on moving from here unless it's to Mexico. And so other than that, I mean, it's just going to be opening up another location. I'll go visit.
Yeah, for sure. Go visit.
Speaking about Mexico, do you have a house building in Mexico right now?
No, you're not the first person who asked me that. I'm wondering if people are saying, I am looking though. I am looking. We've talked to realtors. We've talked to friends and family who probably own out there. We're actually staying out there for a month coming up here in June. So we are planning on scouting for places in Mexico.
Yeah, it's funny that we bring that up, because everybody, you know, who comes here to work, and I'm not saying you came to the States to work, but you just have that mentality where you're like, all right, cool. I'm gonna work, and then I'm gonna build a house in Mexico while I'm working over here, and then when I'm ready to retire, I'm just gonna go to my house in Mexico.
You're right, because even my barber was saying the same thing. He just bought a house in Mexico. I think he bought his house for $160. It's 2 floors, but literally the property is super small. Like he showed me it, and it's like you walk, like the street's right there and the door's right there, and then you walk out to the back behind the room, and there's like a small little balcony, and that's the property. There's nothing else. I'm like, that's it? You have no land? He was like, no land, 160. I'm like, what the heck? This is what y'all like out here? He's like, bro, I love it.
But have you gone?
I have not gone.
Okay.
The Lacetas are going to get me.
Okay. So, no. Okay. So when you go out there, yes, there's no denying it. People are poor. There's need everywhere. But there's this peace, right? That you go out there and you don't worry about what you worry about here. Here, it's so fast paced. I feel like life just goes by so fast. And the times that I've gone to Mexico, whether it be in Monterrey, in San Luis, we've gone to Guanajuato, Cancun, Isla Mujeres, it feels the same over there. It feels like you're at home and you don't really have to worry about anything. You know, like life passes you by here.
Yeah, so I can see that.
I think the number one thing about living in the United States is just, we treat time as currency.
Yep.
Yeah, for sure. Like when you say that, I was thinking like going to Mexico, like visiting, you don't have to job. You don't have to worry about work. You don't have to worry about paying bills theoretically. So you're just like, you wake up, what are we going to do today?
Yeah.
And that's it. And then you kind of just
what am I gonna eat?
Figure out the day and then whatever. So there's really no beaches out there. It's kind of just hot.
It depends on where you're at. So I know there's beaches over like by Cancun, and then there's beaches I think close to Guadalajara. I don't know all of Mexico all that great. So and then I'm pretty sure there's more. But I've only gone to beach areas only in Cancun and Isla Mujeres. But I love Isla Mujeres. So
along this journey, what has inspired you to keep adding more businesses?
I was asked that question the other day if it was because of money or anything like that. I'd like that sense of feeling of like accomplishment. And so when something else comes on and it's like a challenge, I kind of take it on and I'm like, okay, let's do it. Right. So me and my husband we're very opposite. He's more like strategic. He's a critical thinker. He's very logic, give me all the scenarios that can happen first, and then I'll make a decision, and then I won't do it. And now we're like, let's do it, and we'll figure out the rest later. So
you sound like me and Roger.
Yeah, I'm the strategic one,
and I'm just like you, where it's like, let's just go, let's just do this already.
Let's just do it. So, and we've balanced each other out because now I'm like, okay. Now I have kids, right? So now I got to think about certain things. But I was definitely more of a wild card whenever I was younger. It's like, oh yeah, wherever the wind blows, let's go. But being, like I said, like my mom, that she instilled like, oh, you can do whatever you want. And so I just always kind of figured that's exactly how it is. If I want to do it, I just got to go do it. So
what if your daughters wanted to do the same thing you wanted to do? Would you be okay with allowing them to get the business passed to them? Obviously, you would teach them and give them the certifications and everything like that. But if they wanted to do it, would you be okay with allowing them to take over the business and everything like that?
For sure.
Okay, so in your mind, since you're the one that's raising them and everything like that, what is a good age you would think for them would be, I can't even think of the word, for them to take over the business?
To take over? I don't think it's an age. I think it's more mentality.
Yeah.
Right. So someone asked me, like, what's the biggest thing? Like, what is it? The number one thing you need to start your business? And before it's money, before it's social media, before it's even a service or an idea, I think it's your mentality. Your mentality has to be there because there's so many obstacles that come along the way that if you're not prepared, it'll break you. It'll break you. And, I have to admit, there's been so many times where like I'm crying in the shower. Like I'm ready to give up. I don't want to do this. And then, after I cry, I shake it off and I'm like, you know what? No, now we're going to go and do it again. So
that's a good place to
mentality.
Cry.
Yeah.
That's a good place to cry. Nobody's going to see those tears.
Nobody's going to see those tears.
So where do you find inspiration to, keep refining yourself to just grow and be better every day? Well,
first of all, my family. I'm very family oriented. if you were to meet my family, like I said, we're super close. I'm the oldest of 5 on my mom's side. And then on my dad's side, I have a brother and 2 sisters. And then I also grew up very closely with my cousins, which are most of them. On my mom's side, it's me and 4 boys. And then on my aunt's side, it's 4 boys, and then she had her daughter. Yeah, so they were very tough with me, and we just kind of grew up together. So I would say family is definitely what has driven me. I saw a lot of need in our family. We grew up pretty poor. So I just wanted to make sure that my family was taken care of. Of course, life teaches you something different, right? Some things, some people choose to be in certain positions, and even if you give them everything that you have, it's not going to make a difference. So I think with time and with showing them that you can do things, they also follow, right? So,
we're going to go ahead and move away from family for a second, but I wanted to ask you, aside from, the whole networking. Well, no. All right, we're cutting this. Let me get my thoughts together. Cut. No. So back on the business side, we're talking about. I got lost in the story. I was like
lost in the sauce.
And in my head, while you were telling that story, I'm like, dang, I didn't grow up with that. And so in my head, I'm just like, man, that sounds really nice.
The structure and stability.
Yeah, but get back on topic. Let's talk networking. So what kind of networking events do you do?
So recently we'd had our grand opening, and so we invited some vendors to come out. Before that, the very first networking event that we had done was Expo Contratista, and that was in 2019, so before the pandemic. It was in July of 2019, and it was amazing. I mean, it was literally our niche was there. So all the general contractors who don't know how to do the services that we're providing, right? So that we were selling general liability to them for their businesses. We were helping them with their taxes, everything. So that picked up quite a bit from there. And then I didn't go to another one. Then the pandemic happened, and we didn't go to another one until I think it was 2021 when we did that. But it was a lot less people. So we didn't get the same feedback anymore. Of course, this is after pandemic. Everybody was still not scared, but they were just like uninterested in doing events like this. Then we did La Poderosa conference 2 years ago, I think. No, yeah, like about almost 2 years now. And we had an amazing time. So it was nothing but woman-owned businesses. And I just love meeting with a lot of people who go through the same thing that you go through. And so I don't want to say that we've got a lot of clientele from there, but I feel like a community was starting to get built through that. And so sometimes when business isn't doing great, because it happens to everybody, there's seasons, there's ups and downs, you have to rely on other people or who the rapport that you build with people to be able to continue, right? So we'll trade off services, we'll help each other out. And I feel like this new generation of business owners don't understand that yet, because everything seemed like everything was booming, right? Right after the pandemic, everybody's making money, all this stuff. And so I don't need nobody kind of mentality. But if you were in business before that, you definitely know you need other businesses. You need your competitor. You need because even though a lot of people are like, oh, that's your competition. Yes and no. They are, but they're not directly my competition. We do the same services, but there's enough for everybody.
Enough.
Right? So I've never seen somebody as like a threat. Right? I feel like, oh, you know what are they doing? If they're doing better than me, what are they doing? I want to know, right? I want to do better. And if you can help somebody else out, let's bring them along and let's do that. So I felt like La Poderosa conference definitely brought that out. And then we recently did with DFW Cultura. And the first event that I went to, we went as attendees. And I loved it. It was the exact same energy where people were just trying to, really understand and grow their business. It wasn't like looking at people, oh, who's doing better, who's not. It was more like to really help each other out. And so I really loved that. And that's why we ended up becoming sponsors at the second one. And we're also sponsors for this upcoming one on May 27th.
So that's going to be fun.
Yeah. So tell me more about that. Like, what's the whole experience like when you're there? put us in your shoes when you're there as a guest.
So when I went there as a guest, honestly, I was pumped. I was like, let's go. I had my whole team dressed up like cowgirls. We were like, we're going to go out, we're going to market, we're going to talk to everybody. And that's the point. You want to go and you want to meet absolutely everybody, shake everybody's hand. You want to talk to everybody. You want to get to know about everybody. And the more you ask them about them, it kind of inspires you, right? And you get motivated from that. You're like, oh, that's great. Even when people tell you, oh, what business hasn't been doing, to go, well, why? And I think that it makes your problem smaller when you talk about it, right? You're like, oh, it's because I'm not getting clients. Well, why aren't you getting clients? Well, I'm not getting clients because, I don't think that we're, talking to as many people as we need to. Oh, well, that's why we're at this event. Well, let's talk. Let's get that momentum going. And so that's why I liked going to the event with DFW Cultura, because it really felt like we were there to grow, not to just, gossip.
No, I think the number one thing that I can take away from that is just seeing, what's that book called? How to Win and Influence Friends
by Dale Carnegie.
By Dale Carnegie, yeah. Because the number one thing in that book is, you have to get interested in everybody in the room. Because once they do that, they're gonna see you. They're gonna be like, oh, I was just talking to that person, and now you have that relationship where now you're recognized, and now you're just not like, well, who's up there talking right now? Because you said you also did like a bit of a speech or whatever. Yeah,
I did a giveaway. So on the first one, like I said, we went as attendees. So really, I didn't go like saying all of our services, right? When you go as a sponsor, you have a booth, and when they come up to you, you tell them about your services. But when I went as an attendee, it really was just to get to know the actual people that were there. So, you got to hear everything that they did, and they're like, oh, it's because I'm having a problem with this. And when you are in customer service, when you are trying to sell a product, when you are trying to get clients, you need to ask yourself, what can I do for you to help you? Right. So if you're not helping them, they're not gonna want to have anything to do with you. And even so, when you're listening, you're like, oh, I can solve that problem. And it has nothing to do with how much money you made. It's something I do, and I can help you with that. So when I saw that a lot of these women needed the help or from the services that I provide, I was like, well, let's do a giveaway. And I was like nervous. I was like, I don't know if I should go up there because only the sponsors are doing a giveaway. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to ask. It doesn't hurt to ask. So I went behind the stage and I was like, hey, Frankie, can I do a giveaway? And he was like, yeah, do it. And I was like, okay, we're going to do an LLC formation. He's like, I think that's perfect because that's exactly what a lot of these women need here. So that's why we did the giveaway.
So you're like helping them on the back end, right? Yeah. And they're just doing all the front end stuff like that. To touch on what you said right there was a great quote by JFK. I might have heard. He said, don't ask what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. So that quote goes so hand in hand with those events, because you really want to see what can I help provide to you. Exactly. And I don't really want to take nothing for you, because I know if I provide something for you, you're in return going to provide something back eventually. It might not be now. It could be in 3 years, 2 years, 1 year. But somehow you're going to remember that I helped you. Just helping you, not even asking you for money, whatever it is. You're going to end eventually, it's going to come back around. So that quote just goes hand in hand with this whole scenario. So whenever you were like going up there to speak and do the giveaway and whatnot, were you like nervous?
Yes, I was nervous. But here's the thing. Whenever I get nervous, it's one of those feelings, kind of like the challenge that I was telling you, that I don't like to feel like I'm defeated. So if I wouldn't have done it, if I wouldn't have asked, and if I wouldn't have gone up there, I would have been beating myself up more for not having tried than if I would have just gone. So, and I don't like that feeling more than being nervous. So I'm just like, you know what? We're just going to go.
You hit the nail on the head, because that was like what I was telling Roger. I was like, we had talked about speaking at the next one. And I was like, yeah, I want to do it, but I'm just so like nervous. Like, I don't know what I'm going to say, how we're going to do it.
But you're on camera all the time.
It's completely different when you're in a crowd full of people you don't know. Yeah, you just met them, but you don't know who they are. You don't know what they're going to think of you. You don't know if you're going to end up embarrassing yourself or anything like that. But I just think I would be nervous, but once you start talking, the nervousness kind of just goes away. And that's kind of like the same thing with the podcast. It's like you're a little nervous right before it starts, but 5 minutes in, you're like, all right, it's cool.
We're just
it's all gone now. Yeah, we're just talking. It's all gone. The nerves are gone. You cooled it all down. So I think you just saying that inspires me at this next one, because we had already came up with like what we want to say, how we want to say it. It's like it inspires me to even want to do it now. Like you just said that, I'm like, yo, I want to go do this right now. I wish it was tomorrow. We can go get on stage and just get it over with, because I just want to do it now. Yeah. The way you said that.
Definitely. And I will say y'all do a good job of like making somebody feel comfortable. So when you go up there, they're exactly the same way. They do an amazing job. Frank, Vicky O, Jay Cruz, they make you feel comfortable. They just kind of like, they can tell you're nervous, and they just kind of like, just come on, let's just do it. So
yeah, I think that helps it for them too, because with Cruz on the radio and them just talking to other people, and then just being in front of everybody, the ones throwing it and making it all happen, those nerves are basically gone for them. This is like natural. They're in their natural habitat. Just, hey, it's okay. Just do what you got to do.
Exactly.
I like that.
No, but I don't know if you saw that this morning, but Vicky O actually did a segment on NBC talking about her how was Latina's business she has with her sister.
Oh, okay. No, I haven't seen it.
Yeah, like they did it not too long ago. It's not gonna drop for a while, but she was posting about it.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. You're talking about for Aguas Chicas?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes.
See, I was getting that confused with it sells bartending business. Yeah. So let's say 3 things you think that you need to become an entrepreneur. Go.
Okay. Mentality, support, and ganas.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Not the country.
That's funny.
Your turn.
I wanted, what are some...
No. Your question. Like what do you think 3 things?
Okay.
Yeah.
My bad. Okay. I thought okay. I got you. I would say to be an entrepreneur, it's for sure your mindset, your drive, and then like you said, support. Support is so key in being an entrepreneur, because if you have the support, it's a lot easier for you to really chase your goals and do what you want to do, because you know that your family or your friends are really going to be, hey, I'll support you. Whatever you're trying to do, I'll support you. I think support is probably for me the biggest thing besides mindset. It would go support, mindset, and then I actually flip that. It's got to go mindset, support, because if you don't have the right mindset, you can have the support all day, but if you're not putting the work in, then it's not going to go anywhere. So I would say mindset, then support, for sure.
For me, it's discipline, vision, and the ability to pull the trigger.
It's funny because we all have 3 different connotations of what it is to be an entrepreneur, but that's why everybody's different.
It's important, all of it, yeah.
So are there any, real quick, I have 2 questions. What are some of the struggles you had to deal with during the pandemic with your businesses?
Okay, so we did everything like in person, by paper, before that. And to be honest, I don't think our business slowed down, because if you notice, the pandemic when we shut down was March. Tax season is over in April. So people did not care. They're like, we're coming. They're like, we'll bring you some caldo if you're sick, and we're coming. So they don't care. I think the biggest issue was getting people to not be scared to send over their stuff by email, especially because we have an older Latino culture in our clientele. And so they were like, are you sure you're going to get the message? What if I send my social to somebody else? What if I do this and that? What if I forgot to scan something in?
Are you trying to scam me?
Yes. Yeah. Well, most of our customers knew us, but still, I mean, it's sensitive information. So they're like, I don't want to send it over, or I don't know how to send it by email. That was probably the biggest hurdle. So if you see our old office, we have a door drop. And people would just drop stuff in through there. And people were like, oh, you have a window on the side. We'll just do this like McDonald's. I'm like, oh my goodness. People did not care. They wanted to come in person and see us. That was our biggest hurdle.
That's funny. You had a drive through and everything. You were in a mask while you're sitting giving them the paperwork.
Yeah, they didn't care. They wanted to be in the office.
So what inspired you to start this the Air B&B business?
So during the pandemic, a lot of people's rentals, we were kind of worried about, people not wanting to get out of the houses. Also, rental rates dropped because the interest rates were lower. A lot of people were like lowering their rental amount. And I started noticing that on Airbnb, you can make more And the house doesn't get torn up as much as like when you rent it out. So I was like, why don't we just do a B&B? 2 of our properties are literally next door to each other.
That's
on Story Road. And it's really close to DFW Airport. So we started with those and we were like, let's give it a try. And sure enough, we made more money doing it that way than doing a regular rental. And that's why we started the B&B.
Okay, so the one that's over there by, you said DFW, is that still an Airbnb or is that okay? So
we have 3 right now.
Okay, yeah. Somebody else told me he also works for the DFW. He works for Delta, and he said that he was looking into getting a property in Atlanta, and he wanted to rent it out to some of the airplane workers as well for DFW that work at the airplane at Delta. I was like, that's actually a good job.
That's a good idea.
A good idea because those people that are living in your house work at the airlines with you. So they need that transportation when they're going to a whole nother state or they live out there. It's actually a good idea. So when you say that also would be a good idea for DFW and everything like that. So this is my other last question. Are there any books that you read or do you read pretty frequently?
I try to read. I actually used to read a lot when I was younger, and then I had kids and the businesses, and they kind of got in the way. And I just started picking back up on reading again. So probably the most recent things that I've read that like are finished and over with was Make Your Bed. It was like it's a self improvement book, a self-help book. And then right now I'm reading a discipleship book. So I've dived into trying to be a server in my church and just being more committed to Christ. So that's why I started reading a discipleship book, and then I read my Bible daily. But other than that, right now I'm working on reading. What was the last one? I don't know. It's been like 3 books and I don't even know them off the top of my head because I put them down and I just kind of pick back up whenever I'm, have free time.
So are you like reading like physical books or is it like on Audible?
I like physical books. I tried Audible. I still have the membership, and if you see it, it still has all the credits. I've gotten one, and it's The Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey.
Is that the one where it's gray? It's all gray and it has his face to the side?
Yes.
Okay,
yes,
I got that one in my catalog as well.
So I was listening to that one, but honestly, he's easy to listen to.
It's the voice.
Yes.
It's the damn voice.
But other than that, Audibles, it doesn't interest me. I like a physical book. I like to read it. I like to write in it. I make notes and everything. So
yeah, it's crazy. So you're saying you still pay for the subscription, but you don't use it?
It's because the intention is there to use it. Yeah. But I just haven't done it.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like for me, I'm the opposite a little bit where I don't like to read, but I'll listen. So Audible is so key for me. And that's how I get more books knocked out. It's like I can go through a whole book in a day, but just by listening to it, and that's in 5, 6 hours, 3 hours, whatever it is, I can listen faster than I can read. And if I'm working out or doing something, I can knock a book out. But if I'm working out, I can't read a book. Like for me, Audible is coming so big because now I can just tap into so many different books. Just one book that I can't even think of the name of it, but it has Oprah and Arthur Brooks. And he was like Oprah's, I don't want to say therapist, but he had like helped her. Okay. This was like 10 years ago. And I think he said he worked with her for like 20 or 30 years, like helping her as like through problem situations as a therapist. So I can't think, when we get done with this, I'll show you the name of the book, but it's a really good book, a really good read, just on, like you're saying, really trying to balance out the life and just listen to other people and just to balance it all together.
Alrighty, before we go, we did promise whoever's going to still, stick around to the end for some tax tips, some business tips. All right, question number 1.
Yes.
What's a write-off?
So a write-off is an expense that you can put on your business that you made through your business, right? So let's just say that, so there's different types, right? So if you have a car, like a company car through your business, that would be a write-off. If you have interest that you have on properties under your business name, those are write-offs. So those are examples of write-offs, but it can be different for different companies.
So what are some examples people think that are write-offs or not write-offs?
Your groceries. Don't tell me with
they
your
would try to use that as a write-off?
Yes, groceries is, and the first time I heard it, I thought that was absurd, right? But then it just was so much more repetitive. They're like, oh, that's the groceries that I buy on at home, and I'm like, you can't bring me your groceries. That's not a write-off. That's not an expense at all.
Aside from groceries, is there any other stuff people think that they can write off that they can't?
Yes, their rent on their personal loft, condo, apartment. Those are not. That's not going to be an expense. That's going to be a write-off. The way that works is like, let's just say you have a home office. You're going to take what is the square footage of that office and compare it to the rest of the house. So then you're going to get a percentage, and you're going to be able to write off a percentage of all your bills for that property, right? But no, you cannot say, oh, the entire rent of my apartment is this much. Let's write that off. No, you can't.
So for example, let's say I get an LLC, I would have to get the square footage of this specific room, the closet space, because it's all like, together, and compare it to my house.
Correct. So if it's 10% of your house, then you're going to add up all your bills, and you're going to take 10% of your bills.
As far as bills go, I'm sorry to cut you off, but does that include like internet and all that?
Yes, it's going to include all your utilities, any amenities that you have. So like if you have a landline, if you have internet, maintenance on the property. So like if you have a landscaper come out, that counts too. All of that, you'll take 10% of all those bills. You'll take 10% of if you're renting, then you'll take 10% of that rent, and then we'll write that off.
So theoretically, let's just hypothetically speak that if somebody's all their bills, landscaping and everything was around $2,000, 10% of that would be what, 200?
Exactly.
And so you would take 200 off the $2,000 per month, so it'd be 18.
No. So what we would do is we would take, so if it's 200 per month or 200 for the end, even if you were to say for the entire year, we'll then go and we'll put that in your home office. We'll have a category for that, and we'll put that under home office.
Okay. So then how does that work when, like, you write it off, but how does that work when it comes back to paying taxes?
Okay. So just remember that there are certain write-offs that take off what the amount that you owe towards the IRS. And then there's some that take off dollar for dollar. So let's just say that you make, $1,000 of income, and then you were to write off 200 of that. That means that you really only made $800 of income. Okay. But then there's some like miles, which this is why I like miles. They give you 65 cents, and it changes yearly depending on what year you're in, but about 60 something cents per mile as credit towards what you owe to the IRS. So it's not taking off dollar per dollar. So, it's going on the end of what you owe.
Is that all LLCs, or is that kind of mainly predominantly like trucking businesses and stuff?
No, that is all businesses who use their vehicles for business use.
Okay, so that's even if you're driving out here today. So theoretically,
exactly. This is a business use, correct? Gotcha. And if you were to have QuickBooks on your phone, I think the cheapest plan to have is like $5 or $10, and you turn on your location. Every time you stop, it's going to ask you if it was for business or personal use, and it'll start adding up all those miles for you, and it'll make it easier than just coming up with a number at the end of the year.
Oh, you're right. When I did like Uber, like during, I think it was before the pandemic, I had got that same app, and it was like swipe left, swipe right, depending on what is this business. Okay, we'll swipe it to the left. If it's not, swipe it to the right.
And it makes it easier.
Okay, I like that.
Plus, you don't miss miles. You can easily forget where you went that day and what you did last week, much less for the past year.
All right, final question. What are the steps it takes to get an LLC?
So if you're trying to file the LLC, even if it's yourself, you do have to do a name search with the SOS, with the Secretary of State. Then if your name is available, you send in the application with all the information for your business address, your info, and you request it through the Secretary of State. And then they'll send you back a confirmation with if it's approved or not. The SOS actually charges you $300. And then from there, you would apply for your EIN. You get that from the IRS website. And then from there, you need an operating agreement. And the operating agreement can be very simple, or it can be very complex, depending on if you're a single owner or if you have multiple owners.
Owners of the LLC?
Correct.
Okay. So in addition to that, let's say you get an LLC, but you're also working at a job where you're getting W-2. Do you have to do 2 separate income taxes, or do you have to do it all in one?
It depends. So if you are a single member LLC, so if you're just one owner, in the tax world, you're still considered a sole proprietor. So you would do that on your personal taxes. So that would go included with your W-2. If you have more than 2 owners, or if you have chosen to be taxed as an S Corp or a C Corp, then you would do your taxes, your business taxes separate from your personal.
Okay.
And let's say, you've made maybe $1,000 in your first year with an LLC or an S Corp. Do you still have to write that off? Do you still have to do the taxes on that, or?
Technically, yes. So anything over $600, you're supposed to be reporting that income. Okay.
So even if you took a loss, you're still going to be doing your taxes, correct?
If you took a loss and you made a high income, I would definitely recommend for you to do that. What it's going to do is going to bite into your W-2 income. It'll lower your AGI and you'll owe less in taxes.
Oh, I'm saying, like, what if you started a business? Let's just say you started a lawn care business and the lawn care business didn't do good and you're in the hole. $300,
but it still made money.
Not even really made money.
No. Like it brought in revenue.
It brought in revenue,
yes.
But you're still under 300.
Yes, you're supposed to report. So you would report that as a loss. So let's just say you only brought in $1,000, but all of your expenses were $3,000, which is very normal, especially for the first 3 years of any business. And so what you would do is you would put that, regardless if it's on your personal or your business taxes, then it would come off as a loss on your business. So but you still want to report it. Even if you were to say, oh, I didn't even make that much. Even if the IRS were to be like, you know what, you don't have to report it because it wasn't like that. You still want to, because you want history on your LLC. Because whenever you go to the bank and you try to get credit, the first thing they're going to ask you is the last few years of your tax returns. And so you want to show that you've been reporting, even if it's a loss, because what if from one year to another, you went from a loss to now you're making $30,000-$40,000.
So that does make sense.
So okay, one more before we wrap this up. But okay, you go to the bank, you have an LLC, but you don't have any, business credit. Do they look at your personal credit and then determine whether or not they can help you out? Because I forgot who we talked to, but they said that they, first time they went to get a business credit, they charge them like a 40% interest rate or whatever just to get the money.
Yes, so they still go based. So they're going to primarily go based off of your business. If it's new, they're going to go primarily based off of you, because you're still always going to be the personal guarantor for your business when it comes to business credit. So same thing like with bank accounts. With bank accounts, the business, it's all in your business name, but you still have to sign off on it because you're the owner. So with credit, it's going to be the same thing. Now, if your business is already established, they're definitely going to look at the history of your business to see how much you qualify for and what interest rate you qualify for. But if you were to default on the loans or the credit lines or anything, you're still personal guaranteeing that money, right? That credit line, basically. But they're going to go based off of the history off of your business.
You hear that, guys? Your credit matters. Even if you're trying to get an LLC, your credit really matters. So
it helps a lot.
You got anything final thoughts?
No, I'm good. I had another one, but yeah, I think you had already answered it.
All right. With that being said, I'd like to thank you for coming on today's episode of Direct Discussions Podcast with your co-hosts, David and Roger. Thank you again for showing up. And I know we've been trying to get this on the books for like about 2 weeks now. And I'm very grateful that everything has came together. Just, having you in this room, the conversations that we're having with networking, tax, information at the end, and basically answered a bunch of questions I had too, like from a personal perspective.
Thank you so much for coming out here. I
really do appreciate
your time.
I appreciate it.
I really do appreciate your time and everything like that.
Thank you.
So guys, we're going to go ahead and catch y'all guys another episode of Direct Discussions Podcast. If you need to, get in contact with her, make sure you check out the description below. We're going to put everything below.
Plug it all in. With that being said, guys, we'll see you at the next episode of Direct Discussions.
Thank you.
Let's go.